The New York Gubernatorial Debate.
And good evening. Tonight, the candidates for governor of New York are facing off in their one and only debate before the election.
I'm running for governor of New York. Now, my job as governor is to protect New Yorkers, and whether it's from terrorism or climate change or Mother Nature. But part of the largest threat today is President Trump.
Larry Sharpe, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, I like you.
Oh, that's good.
I like you a lot. I like
winning
what you're
already.
saying, man. I'm just telling you right now up front. I've been listening to a lot of your interviews, watching a lot of your interviews. Mm-hmm. You make sense.
To come to hear me speak, you have a lot of choices out there. You could be on Netflix. You can hang out with your family and friends. You could be playing a video game. You choose to come hear me speak, you'll come to the polling station. That's number one.
Today, you have to fight Donald Trump, who is the main risk to the state of New York. He is trying to change the rights and values of New Yorkers, and the first line of defense is New York, and the governor leads that fight, and you need to know how to do it.
The average person who votes often, right? If you vote often, you usually vote because of fear. The two-party system installs fear, right? I don't really care about my guy or gal, but I'm so afraid of the other guy, I'll go out and support my guy or gal, even though I don't even know his name. I just know I don't like the red team, so I vote blue, or I don't like the blue team, so I vote red.
He tweets at me weekly. I welcome it. Know me by my enemies. Someone has to stand up to him. Someone has to stop him. New York has always been the progressive capital. We made it the progressive capital once again. And New York should be the state where we say we are the alternative state to Donald Trump.
But to get someone who doesn't vote, and New York State's really bad. New York State, about 70% of New Yorkers don't vote. It's a huge chunk. Over 7 million New Yorkers don't vote.
70%?
Yes, 70%. Yeah. Last election, I think it was 67%. So it hovers around 70. To get those people out, you have to give them hope. Bernie gave the left hope. Trump gave the right hope. If the Democratic Party wasn't so broken as a party, Bernie would have been their nominee. It would have been hope against hope. It was hope against establishment. Hope won. That's how it works. I'm hope. The other two guys who are running in my election, they're totally establishment. I do over 30 events every month. I'm always doing events, getting people to show up, because if I can get them to show up to my event, I can get them to a polling booth.
We have invested more in upstate New York than any administration in modern history. $44 billion, and I am proud of it.
The number one issue is the less money Albany gives out, the less corruption there is, right? So we have to get rid of these economic development corporations, which are all over the state. They decide where money goes.
We had a different economic strategy also. It wasn't just the money. We administered it differently. We had regional economic development councils, because that's how the economy works.
So basically, Albany takes all the money, holds on to it and says...
Tax money.
Yes, takes all the money and says, you know what? Who does what I want to do? You do it? All right, here's my money. Oh, no, I don't like you. And you know what you did? You gave me a bunch of money for my campaign. You get money.
We have 10 economic development regions in the state because we have 10 regional economies. What works for the North Country is different than what works for Long Island, and is different than what works for Western New York.
Here's how Cuomo does it very well. He's very good at this. He's created all these boards, all these authorities, all these corporations, and then he doesn't actually do it. What he does is he then puts people on the board. Now, you can do your own homework on this. He's raised about $800,000 from people who he's put on boards.
So come up with a business plan for each region by the business community in that region, and that's exactly what we've done.
So it's literally corporatism, right? As I take the money and I give it out to people who I want. Here's what he does. There's a problem with cigarettes. There's a problem with computers. A problem with X, Y, and Z. Here's what I'll do. I'll make a commission. I'll call it the Solve This Problem Commission, and I'll have one or two people that I'll appoint to the board, and the rest will be people from the industry. See, that'll be awesome. It'll be fair. Who do I appoint? Oh, you gave me money, I appoint you. You give me money, I appoint you.
Inside job.
Yes.
Nepotism.
I could stand here before you and say we have done more for upstate New York than any governor. I will, however, defer to Governor DeWitt Clinton because his $7 million built that Erie Canal.
That's why all those people go to jail, but he doesn't. That's the reason why. He protects himself.
I've heard of this. I've
Good
heard
mob
of this
boss.
with him.
Great mob boss. So he makes sure his capos go under, but he doesn't.
But second to Governor DeWitt Clinton, I believe our administration has done more for upstate New York than any administration in history.
The state is broken. And we have people who are saying things like, well, we'll tweak this or tweak that, or the worst, we just need more funding.
Let's be honest. Albany turned its back on upstate New York 50 years ago. And Albany was nowhere to be found when upstate was going through that transition.
This state has been in decay for decades, and the people who are running on the red team and blue team are literally career politicians. That's all they've done.
So I have no problem going to that legislature and saying, you're right, I want to invest billions in upstate New York.
Remember, the politician thinks that they're the right person, the smartest person in the room. They're not, right? The business lawyer is the smartest guy in the room. He always finds a way around the rules, or he writes them himself to make sure there's a loophole, and he gets around it. I want to change culture. I want people to know that there are better ways of doing things.
But overall, the REDCs have invested in 6,300 projects. 6,300. Now, I'm not saying all 6,300 have succeeded and gone on to great triumph.
If you like what New York is and you're happy with how they pushed out cryptocurrency, pushed out hemp and marijuana, still trying to push out Uber, tried to push out Airbnb, tried to push out everything new, all new money to only keep old money in this state. If you're happy about that, if you're happy about seeing how much money we're spending and getting terrible results, if you're happy about an education system that drops over $20,000 per student and still we're not even above average, if you're happy about that, Cuomo's your man.
And if it ever comes before my constitutional obligation and my party loyalty, my constitutional obligation will win every time, and it's not even a competition.
I understand what's happening in the private sector now, so I can bring that to actually the government to make it actually more efficient, and that's the point.
Governor Cuomo.
Yeah, I don't think racial injustice in the criminal justice starts with marijuana.
People ask me all the time, Larry, what's the biggest issue when it comes to race? Biggest issue, number one issue, war on drugs. Over anything else, war on drugs.
It starts with lack of housing. It starts with lack of schools, lack of job opportunity. That's where the racial injustice starts.
It is the biggest issue that's crushed the black family for the past 30, 40 years. Without question, the biggest thing. But it also crushes poor whites, and it also crushes Hispanics also. Just a bigger chunk of the black community, without question.
In the criminal justice system itself, it's also prevalent. It's not a coincidence that the majority of people in jail are people of color and poor. That's not a coincidence.
If you're poor black, poor Hispanic, you know what you care about? Ending the drug war. How about end the drug war? We're the only party who wants to end the drug war.
That's why I started 15 years ago to work on reforming the Rockefeller drug laws, which finally got done and made a fantastic difference.
But more importantly, how about licensing? You have people who, particularly in New York City, tons of women of color, who want to start hair salons. They can't because of licensing. I'll ask you a very important question. What does a bureaucrat in Albany know about a black woman's hair?
On your question, the governor of New York is not a job about politics. It's not about advocacy. It's about doing. It's about management.
The answer, nothing. Not a thing. Let the people start their own businesses. When I was a kid in the Bronx, there were tons of people who are Hispanic and black who had their own businesses. That's gone away with licensing. They can't anymore. I knew guys who used to drive gypsy cabs back in the Bronx because the yellow cabs wouldn't come to the Bronx when I was a kid.
This is real life. Governor of New York, you're running a $170 billion budget. You're in charge of fighting terrorism. You're there in cases of fires and floods and emergencies and train wrecks. You have to deal with the legislature that's very, very difficult.
We tried to fight Uber, and now we're trying to tax them out. Of course, right? Uber allows people of color to take their car and make some money. So you want people to step up? I have an idea. Vote Libertarian.
I think legalizing marijuana, I had a report done in January that says it makes sense.
This is 1979. This is 1980. This is how long I've been on this train. It's a long time.
I worked with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries on decriminalizing low levels of marijuana. The Senate wouldn't pass it, but we worked on it, and that was a positive step.
There's more to just letting people smoke marijuana, though, particularly in New York State. There's also letting people grow marijuana and grow hemp.
New Jersey is doing it. Massachusetts is doing it. 8 other states are doing it.
Hemp and marijuana should be regulated like onions. No difference. If you can grow an onion in your backyard, you can grow hemp or weed in your backyard.
I do believe the benefits outweigh the risks. That was the conclusion of a panel of experts.
So what can I do as governor to make that happen? Number one, what I have to do, no matter what, is begin right away, within the first 90 days, to tell the Justice Department, to tell the police force to stop enforcing. It should be the lowest, if not zero, priority, period. But there's a second issue. There are people who right now are suffering because they were arrested because they have a plant in their pocket. I must begin pardoning all of those people with possession charges. I must pardon them within the first 90 days. And on top of that, not only must I do that, I must push the issue, push it hard, that we have to deregulate marijuana and it should no longer be a Schedule I drug.
What do you say to your children about using marijuana and drugs in general?
This is going to be a personal decision, I think. I've talked to my children about it. I experimented with marijuana in college. I've talked to them about the choices, the options, the risks, and my children are now older, frankly, and I've given them the best counseling that I can. They're in their 20s, and they're going to make their own decision.
What you choose to imbibe in your body, what you own, is up to you. Whether you use that to heal yourself mentally, physically, or spiritually, that's not my concern. And if you believe that to be true, there is only one candidate in November of 2018. That is Larry Sharpe for governor 2018. Thank you very much.
I am a Queens boy, you should know, born and raised and proud of it.
So I was born in Manhattan. I was adopted by a biracial couple. They brought me to the Bronx, Yankee Stadium, Rubber Yankee Stadium. I grew up on Walton Avenue, 161st Street. So my religion is the Yankees, yes.
My family was all from Queens. My grandparents came. They were poor Italian Americans.
When I was about 11, my parents moved out to Long Island, and I grew up as a teenager in Long Island. My father died when I was 12. That was devastating for my family. My mom's was an immigrant, and all her family was in Europe, and my father's family abandoned us, so we were lost.
My father wound up governor of New York. I'm his son. I grew up in Hollis.
I was 17 years old, very unhappy. I joined the Marine Corps. That's why I ran off to the Marine Corps. I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps. When I came back, my mom had a big problem. She could not handle me leaving. She couldn't handle my father's death. It really totally tore her up. She was addicted first to regular drugs, legal drugs, and then eventually illegal drugs. She was a victim of the drug war. She was a felon. I pulled her out of prison. She literally had 2 garbage bags in her hands. That was what she was. That's what was left of her life. Did my best to get her up and running, apartment, with all my savings, car, get up and running. And I saw how hard it was for her.
Went to Fordham Law School. Fordham College, paid my own way through college, worked part-time, but went to college, went to law school, and I became a lawyer.
So because of that, one of the reasons why I started my own business. This is her, me, and my step-pop. We became truck drivers. We started our own trucking business, and I didn't want my mom to be a hostage anymore. I wanted her to have her own world. I wanted her to be her own boss. So that was my first foray into business, into being an entrepreneur.
At one time, I worked in the federal government under President Clinton, and I worked in literally every state in the country.
Then I decided to start my own business and did that again, and that did not go well. I sold that one off. Then I had one more job. Then I started this business, and I've been in now for 14 years. I have been a consultant, a trainer, as I said before. That's what I do for a living. I've been an officer in a public company twice, and that's what I do.
And my grandfather, Andrea Cuomo, Italian. I'm named Andrew for my grandfather, Andrea. That was the Italian tradition. They came. They had nothing. He was a construction worker. He was a laborer, made a little bit of money, opened up a delicatessen in South Jamaica, more like a bodega, we would call it now.
Now, while that was happening, I got married. Now, I met my wife in high school. We were both in high school in Central Islip. I was 17. She was 16. I thought she was the greatest thing in the world. She thought I was some guy. That's it. She was not impressed. I was just some guy.
So you look at the story of Andrea Cuomo and his wife, Mary. One generation, their son becomes governor of New York. One grandson becomes a lawyer. the granddaughter becomes a doctor, and this all happens in the span of 30 or 40 years.
When she goes to college, she writes me a note saying, hey, Larry, I'm in love with some guy in college.
Oh, no. Crushed you.
I'm done. So I go off to my own world. I figure I lost her and move on. We don't communicate anyway for about 11 years. 11 years later, I get an email. This is AOL days, right? I get an email from AOL. Yeah, I told you I'm 50. It was AOL.
It's fine.
Yeah,
so you probably still have that same AOL account.
She still does. I don't. She still has it. She still has the same one. Yes, she does. So literally, you get everyone's email address is literally in the copy box. She sees my email address. She responds, "Hey, is this Larry Sharpe from high school?" I respond, "Yeah, when we're going out. Next week we go out. Next year we're married."
Yeah, let's talk about the MTA. It's actually worse than the MTA. We have a crumbling infrastructure all across the state. We have a crumbling infrastructure all across this nation.
I talk often about using our infrastructure in New York State as a way of raising money. We have bridges and tunnels and throughways and the Erie Canal, which is over 500 miles and about 36 locks and lots of stuff like that.
On the MTA, you're really referring to the New York City Transit Authority, which is the subway system. It has been declining for decades.
The bridge should be the Staples Bridge, the Verizon Bridge, the 3M Bridge, the Kellogg's Bridge, the Apple Bridge, whatever. We should be leasing the naming rights out. I'm a business guy. I want to retain the asset. We don't lose the asset. Lease the naming rights out, right?
The state cannot fund the MTA without sharing it with the city. If the city will do it 50-50, I will do it.
These are companies that pay billions of dollars every year in marketing, all the time. They drop $20 million for a stadium that gets used on the weekends. Instead, we have them pay $100 million for a bridge that's crossed by hundreds of thousands of cars every single day.
So you call it the Verizon Bridge.
The Verizon Bridge. Love it. Perfect. And it's mentioned hundreds of times every single day during rush hour in a 16 million person metro area.
It is a shared city-state expense, Marcia, and I need the city and the state to both fund it, and we need congestion pricing, which will be the long-term funding stream.
But here are the next pieces on top of that. Once he gets the money, they're also responsible for the maintenance. We will still inspect the bridge, right? People say,
so
but Larry,
Verizon's responsible for
that
the
is
maintenance?
correct. That's part of it, yes.
So they have to pay you and they have to fix the bridge?
Bingo,
Who
yes.
the fuck is going to
That is
sign up
correct.
for that?
All I know is I already have bankers already asking me about how long is the lease, what are we going to do? They already love it. Yes.
Really?
People already
and
talking
they know
about
that
it.
you want them to fix it
That's
too?
correct, yes. Absolutely.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
But that'd be part of the contract.
I would support canceling the fare hike because the service is not what people deserve. It has to be a joint funding responsibility between the city and the state.
Okay, how many bridges you got?
There's over a dozen just in New York City, just in the MTA. And I didn't even count the Erie Canal that has 36 locks. We can name each lock, repair the entire Erie Canal, make it commercially viable without paying any taxpayer dollars whatsoever.
I want to fund a $33 billion plan. That's what we need to fix the subways.
So immediately at that point, we're getting money. The bridge is actually getting fixed. And here's the best part, the need for tolls.
You could do this with tunnels. You
Yes.
could do this with roadways.
Yes.
I mean, nobody gives a shit what the parkway is called. The Verrazano Parkway. It's not making anybody any money by calling it the Verrazano Parkway.
The
Is this
MTA
all your idea?
Of course.
She's gonna lock that shit down.
Why?
She's gonna steal it.
Let them.
Cynthia Nixon.
Let them. Joe, you just came up with the reason why this is so important. Because win, lose, or draw, everything I'm talking about stays and will fix my state. People say all the time, Larry, what happens if everyone takes all your ideas? Good, I'll go home and go back to work. I can stop doing this.
We did that 5 years ago. You know what has happened since? Everyone who hunts still hunts. Legal gun owners still have their guns. The world didn't stop spinning on its axis.
You know what it actually does? It makes a lot of law-abiding citizens criminals overnight. That's not safe. How was that safe? All of a sudden, what I did legally last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, all of a sudden now I'm a criminal.
It wasn't a slippery slope for us to come in and take people's guns. 5 years later, legitimate gun owners who should have a gun have a gun.
But there's even more. Now you have people who travel through our state. You've all heard these stories. They travel through our state. And when they travel through our state, they have a firearm in a bag. And next to that firearm, in the same bag, they have ammunition. Note what I said. Next to that firearm, they have ammunition. Not in the firearm. Next to the firearm, they have ammunition. Well, SAFE Act, guess what? That's loaded. You're going to jail. I'm not joking. That's loaded. You're going to jail.
But what else has happened? New York State is now the third lowest in per capita murders with a gun.
And what happens if you have kids with you? Well, CPS is coming. That is correct. CPS is coming. Yes, it is. CPS is coming. And that's if you're not even a New York resident. The SAFE Act is unsafe. The SAFE Act is wrong. The SAFE Act is immoral. And all those things you can think, it is a bad idea. It doesn't make us safer at all.
Common sense gun reform. It can be done. It has been done here. And it's been a proven success.
And the Unsafe Act is a feeble attempt at making people feel safe. And what it actually is a terrible attempt to seize more guns, to make people criminals, to make people feel alienated, and also to make people who don't understand guns at all think that they're safer. It doesn't work. It's wrong. It is immoral, and it should be repealed immediately.
Why are the property taxes high? 10,500 local governments all across the state, duplicative services, duplicative equipment. Take any county, you have a county government, and then you have town and villages, cities, and everyone has a duplicate of everything else.
There's a loophole in raising property taxes in New York State. There is, in theory, a 2% cap. But when it comes to property taxes, the people don't vote on that. Only local councils do. So they can go behind closed doors, declare an emergency, which it always happens to be an emergency, raise property taxes, and that now fails their mandates.
The county of Westchester, bring in those 425, and let's find ways to share services and consolidate services.
And I'm saying, no. If your county and your local township, you want it, your local village wants it, please spend money on it. Keep your county the way you want to keep it.
Everybody has their own garage and garage maintenance facility. Everybody has their own IT department. In one county, bring them in, and we'll find ways to share services. That happens in 62 counties in the state of New York. And that's why the property taxes are so high.
People tease me all the time, and they say, Larry, you're born in Manhattan, you live in the Bronx and Queens. How can you know what's right for Broome County? How can you know what's right for Ontario County? How can you know? I don't. I don't pretend to know. And guess what? You up there, you don't know what's right for Queens either. So we're even.
This year, by law, we made them meet. We made them come up with a plan for shared services.
So how about instead, I localize government and allow you to create your counties the way you want to create your counties, the way you want to create your local environment.
And I'm the town of Andrew. I don't really want to cooperate with the town of Tom, because I want to have my own IT department, and I want to have my own everything, and I don't want to have to cooperate with Tom. I want my independence. Yeah, but it's very, very expensive.
New York State was ranked, if I remember right, 50th by Cato when it came to freedom. Bottom, we beat California. Yes, we are number one. We are the least free state in the union, and we beat California, and something has to change.
Wait, why don't you just move that?
I could. That is an option. And people ask me, why are you running? Because I have two choices. Option one, leave the state that I love, or fix it. So I'm trying to fix it.
Law that we're going to sign in a few minutes is probably the most radical, revolutionary law in improving education. So we have the master teacher program to give teachers more and more skills so they can continue to grow. We have teacher centers so teachers can get together and talk about their job, because teaching is hard.
Well, the first thing you want to do for education is you want to make sure there is no standardized testing until high school. None whatsoever. Standardized testing is bad for several reasons. Number one, it's an unfair way of grading teachers. Right? Teachers are now graded by how their students do in a standardized test, which is silly. That doesn't mean you're a good or a bad teacher. Next, it makes a bunch of kids who are 10, 11, 12, 13 years old feel stupid because they're not good test takers.
We're going to invest over $1 billion more this year into education than last year.
The sad part here is, though, Florida actually has more people than we have and half of our budget.
That's now over $25 billion that we spend on education. We spend more per child to educate in education dollars than any other state in the United States of America, and I am proud of it.
We throw about $22,000 per student per year in New York State, more even than California, and it doesn't work. We have mediocre results at best. Dollars isn't the answer. It's revamping the system.
This state is going to be the first state in the United States of America that offers free college tuition to any family under $125,000.
For the vast majority of students going to college now, the first year of college is 13th grade because they're not ready for school, because the last 2 years didn't prepare them for college. If it did, we wouldn't require 13th grade. How do I know it's 13th grade? The average student now takes 6 years to graduate college. So the results show me that I'm correct.
We don't believe in the 7-year college plan. 2 years, 4 years. And then we want you to agree you're going to stay and live in New York for 4 years afterwards.
We've been told a lie. And that lie is the only way to success, the only way is to do well in high school, get a great 4-year degree, and go get a job and sit behind a computer all day. That's a lie. That is a way to success. It is not the only way to success.
You look at the future, you anticipate where we're going. More and more, you're going to need a college education.
So how about this instead? At 10th grade, take a test. You pass a test, you get a diploma. Whether you were homeschooled, private school, public school, diploma's yours. Awesome. Now you have 5 choices, and this is exactly to your point. You have 5 choices. Choice number 1, you're a kid who's hardcore, you think that college is your answer. Good, go to 2-year prep school. Imagine that kid who right now you just said is busting his ass. He could be in a prep school of his choice, and the people in that prep school are all kids who want to be in that prep school.
The way the businesses are developing now, they need a highly skilled workforce. It's all about skills. It's all about talent.
You're not that kid. You're the kid who's super smart. You want to become a scientist. You want to get a PhD. Awesome. Go right to an associate's degree. Start right away, 16, 17, 18, get to your degree because you're that good. Take your SATs. You're that smart. You're Einstein. Awesome. Go do that.
We want you to study and do well. We don't want to pay the tuition if you're not going to study. We want you to graduate in 4 years.
You don't want any of those things. No worries. Go to trade school. Become a plumber, a carpenter, mason, whatever the case may be. Go do it. New York State desperately needs tradesmen. Desperately. The average tradesperson in New York State is about 50 years old. Too old for an average. But Larry, they're 16. They know what they're doing. Good. Make your mistake at 16, not 26.
We want you to stay in New York, right? That's why the taxpayers are investing in you in the first place. Because if the taxpayers are going to pay for your education and make you smart and make you successful, they want to have you here.
But here's the issue. How do I pay for it? And this covers the entire issue that we're just talking about. That's the next question I get. How do you pay for it? New York State says I have to pay for a full 12 years of school. Have to pay for it. State has to pay for it. We're going to give all of our kids $20,000 and 5 years to use it. They don't get the physical check, but the state will pay a check to whatever school they want to go to for $20,000. They have 5 years to use it. What does that mean? You can, at 16, start experimenting. You can say, you know what? I know college is for me. I'm going to go to prep school. Here's what I promise you. I promise you this. I'll bet any amount of money you want. Promise you this. As soon as this comes into play, you will find tons of all of a sudden prep schools and trade schools that pop up. And guess how much they're going to cost for 2 years? $20,000. That's going to be the tuition. You might say, well, wow, Larry, that's a lot of money. It isn't. We're paying $44,000 now for each of those kids. We're saving $24,000 per kid and giving them better schooling, more accurate, actual choices. They can learn something. They make their mistakes at 16, 17, which is way better than 26 or 27, and maybe they figure out what they want to do.
And you mark my words, other states are going to follow. The people of the state of New York want a government that they can trust, a government that they can be proud of once again, the government they deserve, and they are going to get it.
Governor, corruption has touched your inner circle. Close advisor Joe Prococo and Elaine Colieros, the man in charge of a huge economic development initiative, both convicted.
The mandate tonight is to clean up Albany. and to have elected officials who represent the people of this state and not the special interest and not the lobbyists.
When you ran for governor in 2010, you published a pamphlet called Clean Up Albany. Yet it would seem the Capitol could still use a good scrubbing. What believable, achievable solution to corruption will you make happen if you're reelected?
Yes, we have challenges. Yes, we have to clean up Albany. Yes, we have to get the economy running. Yes, we have to rebuild trust with the people. We're going to do all of that. Here's my ethics plan. No outside income, period. Full financial disclosure and campaign finance reform, because we have to take the money out of politics. It's that simple. And we are going to be more united than we ever have been before, committed to reinventing this government and giving this state a government that it can be proud of.
His Majesty's had this state for 8 years. If he was going to fix it, he would have fixed it. Because the reality of it is, this is a campaign that touches both left and right and middle and anyone who just wants a better New York. I say that constantly. For those of you who've been watching my live streams, you see that I ask these questions. Literally, I say, who here is a registered Democrat? Who's a registered Republican? Who's a registered Independent? And hands constantly go up of all three. This is really happening. His Majesty, Governor Cuomo, doesn't look like he's going to debate. The man who says he loves women so much, who supports women so much, that guy has decided to completely ignore the League of Women Voters. That's the guy. We got to get rid of this guy. I want to cover one more piece if I could. As of today, I've done it. I'm telling you guys, I've done it. I'm coming home tomorrow. And when I come home tomorrow, I'm coming back to New York City tomorrow, I will have achieved it. I will have made the full Sharpe. What does the full Sharpe mean? It means I have covered all 62 counties of this state. All of them. Every single county in this state, this mug has visited. I've given every single person in this state an opportunity to say hi to me, shake my hand, ask me a question. I've gone to every single county, to include those that have, 4,000 or 5,000 people in them. Yes, every single county, and I'm not done. I'm still going. I'm going back again. I'm spending a lot of time downstate. Bronx, Staten Island, Long Island, Manhattan. I'm not finished. We can win this thing. But let me ask you, what other person went to all 62 counties? That would be no one. His Majesty won't do it because we're all peasants to him anyway and we owe him. But the Republican won't either because he's not trying to win. He doesn't care. You think the other guy's doing it? No one else is doing it but me. That's it. I hit all 62 counties. I've done a full Sharpe. That's what it's called from now on, by the way. A full Sharpe. Let everyone know we've done the full Sharpe. 62. I will stop yapping now. I'm tired. I got to get some sleep, and you can hear I'm losing my voice from talking so much. 4 events every day, 2 press events every day, 3 events every day, crossing the entire state. I started this thing 2, 3, 4 days ago, 5 days ago in Buffalo, and I'll end it in Astoria tomorrow. All right, guys, give LarrySharpe.com. Talk to you all soon. The war's not over. This is the final push. Push with me to the end. I will see you guys soon. Have a great night. LarrySharpe.com.